Welcome, everybody. We're glad to have you here. You too, Kim. Don't be looking behind you. Room's full. Let's see. Let's wish Todd Massey a happy birthday. He turned 89 this week. Close enough, Todd?
That's pretty close.
Pretty close, all right. Well, he really did have a birthday sometime this recently. Happy birthday. Our reverence is going to be by Rodrigo Gerardo.
Okay, great. Thank you. Father God, we praise you and thank you for who you are to us, God. We are grateful to gather here to carry out the business of the school district, God. And we know that you are sovereign and all things in this world work to your glory, God. So I just pray that you help us to faithfully carry out our responsibilities diligently and in the best interests of our community, God. And first and foremost, to bring glory to your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Did you ask somebody to do the pledge?
I did not. I can do it.
The superintendent's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Rodrigo and Superintendent. If that's the hardest unplanned thing he has to do in this summer, he'll be all right. Tonight we have the presentation of the proposed budget. Grant, our new business administrator, I'm going to turn the time over to him, and he can tell us how this is going to go and who's going to play out. Grant.
So I have asked our Chief Financial Officer, Kim Barnhurst, to give a presentation overviewing the budget numbers and things that we've got going on. So without further ado, I'll turn the time over to her.
So this is just a little bit different than what we went over when you approved the tentative budget. We had some more information that was gathered between that time and now that we put into the budget, and found a few corrections that we've made to the budget, but very similar to what we showed you last time. So I'm just going to discuss the same thing, the legislative actions that help form the budget, the different factors that influence the budget, our enrollment and WPU trends, the negotiations and salary and benefit, which is a huge part of the budget since it's about 80% of our budget in Fund 10. And then we have a Fund 10 comparison, the tax trends and their impact, and then just the final numbers on all the different funds. So first of all, we had House Bill 215, which increased the teacher salary supplement amount by $4,200 per individual, which is about a 7 to 9% increase to those people that receive that. Another thing that increased was our valuations, which actually caused a $1.4 million cut to our voted and board leeway allocation in the current year. So that reflected in the FY23 final budget. We factored that in. There was a 6% increase on the WPU. There was also significant increased funding to at-risk students, and increased the funding formula for to and from transportation changed a bit, which increased that by almost $500,000. And the commissioners had reclassified, our county is reclassified, so that made us eligible for $3.2 million in one-time flex funds, which was a surprise to us that we just found out in the end. everybody knows that now they will be funding full-day kindergarten. So if we have the kids in full-day, we're gonna get the funding for them for full-day, and that's ongoing. And lastly, we're still waiting to hear, we haven't heard yet, but on whether they're gonna increase the reimbursement for school lunch. You'll see when we get to Fund 49 that we're budgeting a deficit in there for a few reasons, but we're still waiting for, the federal funding reimbursement amounts affect that budget significantly, so. When we were looking at the budgets, one of the things that we looked at was retention rates for both aides and sped aides that had I use the word hazards in the classroom and on the buses, just working with sped students and keeping that staff. When we have retention in that area, it's better for the students. We also added related services staff to both years' budget. That was due to increased at-risk funding that came in, and also increased Medicaid funding that came in. And we reviewed all of our salary schedules this year. We found some market deficiencies in the administrative and the professional salary schedules, which we were looking at. Transportation had fuel. So these fuel numbers affect the budget. There's large amounts that are going into fuel for our buses. And we currently have the propane tank filled. Haven't used it, it's filled, so it's actually gonna be used in next year, or maybe a little bit through the summer. And I just signed off on a PO where we filled up the diesel and the gas tanks, and they're gonna be testing those, and so we'll be using those next year. So that affected both this year's and next year, this year's maybe negatively, next year's positively. And then we are gonna have some new electric buses. The transportation directors anticipating that the cost of the electricity will be comparable to if they had diesel or propane.
So Kim, before you go on, President, is it all right if we question you during, or do you want to go through your presentation and get some questions at the end?
I think if you have questions pertaining to the slides, it's okay to stop.
Okay, if you go back to that slide, and you said your sped aides and classroom retention rates, do you off the top of your head know, are those above the average or below the average, or are they above our teacher base average or below?
So yeah, just anecdotally, I don't have the data in front of me, Todd, but it's the area we see the most turnover. So we're constantly having people resign and trying to fill those positions. I don't want to misrepresent, but it seems like anecdotally it's at least twice as much turnover than we have in any other capacity, any other position in the district.
I know I get more calls from them, so that's why I was curious if that was and if we're looking at the right amount. I guess that'd be the key further down in our discussion. So
one thing that jumped significantly this year was natural gas and electricity. Like I think everybody probably saw in their own gas bills that the rates went up, so that affected our budget. And then we also were eligible or applied for and received the Clean Air Act rebate and state DEQ funding for the electric buses and the infrastructure for those buses. So it's almost 100% shy. Not all the figures are in there, but shy a little bit that will have to kick in, but it'll all be covered. So it's around $5 million, so a big portion of the budget. Rising interest rates allowed us to get more interest earnings, which was good. And this will be the last year of the ESSER funding. So we spent about $2.2 million this year, and then next year we'll spend another $2 million, and then that will be the end of our ESSER funding. So we're trying to factor in that cliff so that everybody's built back into the budgets regularly. Fund 49, just with inflation, increased costs for foods. We've had a drop in lunch participation. Of course, when you get it free for 2 years and then you don't, I think that's been part of it. And we also budgeted a negative because we have a requirement to not have more than 3 months of operating costs in the fund balance. And the feds put out a lot of money and extra money during the COVID years, that like more than we could spend, but we're gonna be reducing that this year, so, to be within line. Fund 31 is our debt service, and we have 2 GO bonds remaining. We just budgeted the principal and interest payments on those, and in 2027, 2026 one will pay off, and 2027 will be the final payment on another one, and it is a balloon payment. Our capital outlay fund has been approved by the board. There was a few additions to that since the approval. Some of the major projects, of course, were the new preschool building. We had to fund some more stuff with the ag building that we weren't able to complete this year. Infrastructure and the new buses was a big amount of our capital outlay, and also the agreement that we have with Uintah School District, that we pay them for the students that are in our county but go to their school district. The next thing I want to kind of hit on, because this is a big factor in a lot of the formulas for our funding from the state, and that's our average daily membership. Of course, here's the trend for the WPU. It went up 242. That's one of the biggest jumps we've had for a while for 2024. So it's now $4,280. Our membership, we're projecting to be flat. So we had in FY22 it was 6,296, and we're projecting 6,300 for next year. So pretty steady. Negotiations. Salaries and benefits are a huge part of our budget. We budgeted this year, we negotiated, we gave steps, which is just the normal steps that are on our different salary schedules. The teachers were given lane changes. When they get extra education, they can change a lane, and then that bumps our budget up. All the classified and administrative salary schedules based on our market adjustments got a 3 to 5% increase on the base. The teacher's salary schedule and the related services that also apply to that House Bill 215, they got a 7 to 9% increase with that. And then we offered, since we do have this voted leeway money that there's been some fluctuation with, that we're kind of considering one time. We're doing a one-time stipend, 1% to all employees at the end of the year, and then.
And Kim, so just a reminder to the board, when we started negotiations, because of the 6% increase, we were originally looking at an additional percentage, right, ongoing on those base salary schedules, but because of you know, the
$1.4 million cut.
Yep, because of that, we decided then to just do a one-time 1% across the board. It's just safer for now and allows us to readjust for next year once the state gets this thing sorted out. So,
which was hindsight good, because just 2 days ago we found out we lost another 740. So
yeah.
So Kim, you just mentioned voted leeway. We don't have a voted leeway, right? You're talking about the board, or are you talking about the
We're
board?
talking about the board stabilization fund.
Board
voted
stabilization.
capital, yeah.
The
stable.
board
So we're
stabilization.
still only one of 2 districts that don't have a voted leeway in the state.
Yes.
Just to clarify. For
Yep, I think there's 2 or 3 that don't yet.
Yep.
Of course, I mentioned before that we wanted to do something to retain with the aid retention, and so we added an extra 75 cents per hour on all of the SPED TA's schedule, and then all aides overall are going to get either a 1 to 3% stipend at the end of the school year, depending on how many years of service they have, to help retain people and keep and not have as much of a revolving door and turnover in that area. So I shouldn't say revolving door because it's not that bad, but we do have a high turnover. We got good news. Our health insurance rates, after last year's 20+%, we got a 2.7% increase, which was doable, which was stable, and, we didn't change any options in our plans. We did discontinue coverage for dual enrollment employees.
Which affected what, less than 30?
I
Did
think
we
it was
determine?
15.
Less than
15
20?
couples?
Okay.
15 to 20. Yeah. Oh, it's a lot of some are retiring, huh? Okay. So this is our comparison between the 2022 actual. So the 2022 is actually what happened in our budget. The final 23 is what we're proposing, and the original 24. So that's just a comparison. You can see the differences there. Is there any questions on that slide? I'm gonna show a few graphs that kind of help break it down a little. So if we look at just the revenue, the local revenue over the three budgets, the actual, the 23 and 24, remained relatively flat. It's probably just due to the interest spike that we had this year. We had like an extra $800,000 in interest that we hadn't budgeted this year, which helped raise that a little bit. State revenues, of course, the WPU allocation grew by 1.8 million. We had increased funding of 302,000 in at-risk and 500 in transportation. We had the educator salary bump of 1.04 million, and then with that one-time flexible 3.2. So that's why the trend of state revenue has gone up. And then our federal revenue, you would think it would have gone up with the 5 million with the buses, but ESSER dropped by 2, so it's increasing, but next year we'll see, or in 25 we'll probably see a drop in that. And on our expenditure side, increase in salaries, basically based on negotiations and the amount of money we got from the state for that. So salaries and benefits. Other items have kind of remained similar. Of course, the property, that big huge jump in the property is the $20 million preschool building. The electric buses. And the preschool building is actually in Fund 32, sorry. And then the supplies decreases due to the drop off in the ESSER funding, and then other expenses. This is one thing that changed from the budget the tentative budget that you passed. We actually budgeted the remainder of the 3.2 that hadn't been budgeted just in a discretionary fund so that we can put a committee together and see what best way we're going to do that.
That 3.2 just is the commission,
Commissioners, yeah.
Because we're a class 4
assignment
county
of our
now.
county, okay. I'm
Yep.
just making sure I'm.
Yeah, where it's one-time funds, I mean, we can't use it for salaries,
Right.
and so we think probably the best strategy is to run it through our board finance committee and make some decisions about how we can best utilize those funds for our district. And there's a lot of options, right? It could supplement the preschool project or other capital. Usually we don't use, right, those funds from Fund 10, but in this case where it's one time, it actually makes sense to do that and save our local taxpayers a little money. So we'll run that through the board finance committee, and that committee can direct us in terms of how we should best utilize those funds.
And we also are I shouldn't throw that in, but we are also eligible. There's 50 million that we could put in a competitive grant for some, because we're a class 4 now, that we're even eligible to put in for that money as well, that I just found out about
Good.
a couple days ago. So here's the sorry. This is by function. So instruction, support, student support, staff support, district admin, school admin, business department, maintenance and operation, transportation, and committee. And this is just the 23 budget versus the 24, very similar. And this is by object, so salaries, benefits, purchase services, supplies, property, and other. And the reason that other is so big is that 3.2 that wasn't in there before. And this is kind of a breakdown by object and function of our Fund 32, and it's kind of hard to do a graph on this, but you can see this is the preschool building, basically, so. So our current tax rates, we're not proposing any increases to generate more money than we generated last year, so, once we enter in those, it's kind of an inverse relationship, so as the valuations go up, the rates go down, but we're not really, there won't be any changes there. But this is the 22 rates that we had.
So we don't have 23 rates yet, correct?
We don't. I talked to Mike today, and he said by the end of today, which I hadn't heard back from him, they were
I was
hoping
gonna
to
say, I
get
heard
the
they were coming
local-
out soon, so thank
Yeah,
you.
they got the centrally assessed, but they don't have the
Okay.
residential yet.
My understanding, it's possibly going down.
Maybe tomorrow.
Which is a good thing for the,
And he thought it would go up.
Valuations?
He thought the valuations would go up slightly again, so we'll see.
you
We've
know,
got the
our
centrally assessed. in.
business rates went, our commercial rates went up, so I thought the residential would come down. That's just a common sense thing. Who knows?
I don't know. Maybe he was talking overall.
All
when
right.
he told me that.
Yeah, that's something we can't control, but
Right.
I think
So-
this moratorium on water is kind of a problem in our community right now, because there's not enough housing out there, which pushes those values up. I think that's what's happening right now.
it could be.
I don't think it's happening across the state, but it's happening here.
You can see that, I mean, just from 21 to 22, we had almost a 16% increase in the valuations.
Yeah, that kills the residential
Yep.
customer.
So our total rate was 0.006711 for 22, that's the final. I updated that. And like I said, it's an inverse relationship, so as valuations go up, the rates will come down, or if valuations go down, the rates will go up, but it will collect the same amount of dollars. Okay. So this is how the overall ended before we had a positive, and now it looks like in Fund 10, we are budgeting $653,000 deficit to spend down our fund balance by that much. Any questions on that slide? And that's mainly due to the 740 that I had to take out of the budget because I got another update that the board, what do you wanna call it? They
It's
give it
the Board
different names.
Stabilization
Board
Fund,
Stabilization
Yeah.
Fund, yeah.
which is all about adjusting to these valuations.
They found out that the legislature had pulled out 50 million that he didn't have in the formula when he gave it to us the first time, so. We
So
got
that
hit
impacts-
another 730,000.
Impacts all districts in the state, and it's gonna be an interesting conversation at our summer meetings
That will be-
with the state, Office of Education, State
that-
Board of Education.
That puts
perhaps.
us over 2 million. Right?
Yeah,
2.1 or 2.2 million, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a hidden impact on a school district.
well, there's
That's tough.
gonna be some interesting discussions this summer between business administrators and their representatives from the state, and same thing with superintendents. They've gotta figure out a better solution than to hit districts, blindside us the way that it happened this year, so.
I
What,
agree.
and it just happened? I mean, this is after the,
Well, we feel like it would be better if they used historic data that was solid. So they're giving us estimates on estimated projections, and then the projections don't come out that way, and then they take back our money. And so,
They should be using a
If they do
rolling
it
average to
1
give
year
us a
in a-
soft landing.
and they even increased they increased it from 5 to 6, but it's still, yeah.
Yeah.
Why not just use 1 year old data? And then you're just 1 year behind what your number should be, then it's solid when they give it to you.
Yeah, the practice of taking money back is just a horrible practice for a state. It just has to change. It's not acceptable.
So
And-
the board members know, now correct me if I'm wrong, but what Grant and Kim's up against, we actually got that money,
Yeah, it was
and then they took it back.
in-house,
Yeah,
and then
they took it back.
put a negative balance in our checking.
They took another
Basically.
30 this month
Yeah, isn't that something?
with the final figure.
So, no, there's gonna be some rough discussions.
Yeah.
Vigorous
Yeah.
discussion.
It's, yeah.
This is the other funds, Fund 21, 26. You can see here how so this 18 million is basically due to the preschool. The $20 million that we budgeted for the preschool, so, overall that fund's we're going to use 18,379,000 in fund balance out of that fund if we do that. That's what we budgeted, and then foods, we've budgeted almost 586,000. So this is the final numbers that we'll approve unless there's changes that you need to make, but this is Fund 10, expenditures for 23 final and 24 original. There's Fund 21, which is the school activities. So this is where, sports, after school activities, clubs, those things. This is our tax increment, which is, it's the budget, basically. I feel like it's not real tax dollars, but it's just how we have to budget that. It's the charter school levy, and then the VTC and the Vernal City RDAs that we have. This is our debt service. So just a little bit less our principal and interest payment for next year. And this is our capital outlay. So we went from an actual of 6.8 to a budget in 23 of 9.7 to 24 will be 27.5 million. If you take the 20 million off for the school, that's 7 point whatever in the normal capital projects that we have. And here's child nutrition. And that is just an entry for depreciation. It's not, and then that's our overall, all funds combined. Is there any questions you have on any of the funds or the summary or any of the changes since the tentative?
Yes, Kim, I do, and I'm a couple of slides behind. Something just dawned on me. The $2.2 million that we got, that the government took some back, how was that allocated? Was that per student?
No.
How was that money figured, how much each school district would get?
So it's based on on the two leeways that we don't have the board leeway, so we don't get any money back from that one, but we have the voted leeway, so we get some money back from that one. So I don't know the whole formula, but they have a formula that it actually goes through 4 levels. So they take a percentage based on what's in state code, and if all of that money isn't used, kind of like the hold harmless with the certified tax rate, and they refund that back to the schools, because you got either more or less tax dollars, so they're going to compensate with this money here, and then that'll leave a balance, and then they'll run it through a second formula based on state code, and then a third formula, and then you end up with 2 or 3 numbers that equal that. Originally, they said we were going to get 2.6 this year. We ended up with, can't remember. I don't
Almost
have it in
breaking
front of me,
even.
but a lot less.
Yeah.
Like
It's okay.
700.
It's okay. What was running through my mind, we pay Duchesne County School District a lot of money every year for our students that go over there.
Mhm.
We're not getting double hit, are we?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No. But we do need to start billing them for our students, for their students that are coming over here.
We haven't been?
We haven't been.
Okay. Even playing field.
That's
We need to
right.
get on the even
I
playing
already
Is-
talked to him.
Is that a legitimate thing to do?
Yes.
It's in our agreement that.
A lot of districts
Okay, so
don't.
That doesn't-
here's the funny thing, right? If you're in Jordan School District, okay, well, you might go back and forth because some of the Provo kids might go to Jordan or other way around, right? Or, so I don't know. There's a bunch of them over there. So it's kind of a wash for them. They lose some and then some, go back and forth. And so a lot of those districts won't bill each other because it's sixes, right? We're different. We're the outlier because of the way our district boundaries are drawn and the fact that we have people that live in Ballard and in locations where it's just much more convenient for them to go to Duchesne School District, but we don't get a lot from Duchesne that come over here.
That's what I was thinking, we don't have
Yeah, I think,
just a handful, I
Yeah,
assume.
so it's not a wash, it's not balanced, and so that's why we've had the agreement in place, and it's been a long-standing practice. I do think, though, in all fairness, the few kids that do come over here, we need to bill the other direction.
Yeah,
We'll
the-
just net
the
it
theory,
out.
The theory is that tax revenue is from Uintah County is coming our way to our school district.
Yep.
And that's what's funding that. So it's not like it's,
And they don't really get the portion that builds their capital, so
yeah,
we're still getting
I
the
was gonna say, I don't think it's
the
an
deal on
advantage for
that.
them, even though it sounds like it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're looking at it from their side, I think you would say, well, it's still costing us to have your students here, so.
Well,
Yes.
I think it's a pretty fair thing, because
It
we
may
do
be.
run a couple of buses at our dollar.
Oh,
And so,
that's a good point.
when you consider that, it probably balances out
Balances it.
pretty well, even with the capital, if you think about that. Plus,
Yeah.
I know our county, we gave a significant amount of money over there for the high school when it was built.
We did do that.
And we're part owners of the district building now as well, I think.
What'd you say?
I don't know
What'd
how
you say?
that works.
Part owners of their district
Oh.
building, since we helped build that building, now they're using it
We did.
for the district, so that's kind of a oddity, but
Yeah.
something that needs calculated.
Haven't thought about it.
Grant, there gives you some work to do on, it would be great for the board to really know what those numbers are, so that when we make those decisions, that we're not causing feelings, but we have facts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Robin?
Can I just take a philosophical bird walk for 2 seconds?
Sure.
So I'm sure we've analyzed, the whole philosophy. A lot of districts keep a lot of surplus. Our community has asked us not to keep a lot of surplus, but have we looked at like the interest, what we have, have we done those analysis to know, because we're gonna be paying cash? I know we had that conversation with Zions and everything, but I've never sat down and put pencil to paper, but just with interest rates, what that surplus would have brought in as far as revenue on our capital.
Well, the problem is
We
we'd be
would've been
paying
way in a
out
hole.
Even more interest.
Yes.
Like to finance the preschool,
Right, if
we
you would
pay
go
more
out
than
one-
we could get in savings. So it
So-
wouldn't make sense to do that, clearly. I mean, it's,
Yeah, we would be in the hole really the other way.
Yeah.
The ag building doubled in cost, the Central Cove doubled in cost. Those were monies or funds we had. If had we spent them at
Right,
the
I
time,
mean,
they
I
would have been
understand
valued, but
that.
we lost 50% on both of
But
those.
we have, we're watching that. Someone is,
absolutely.
one of
yes.
you,
That's why
like,
we consulted
amazing
with
accountants
Zions.
is
Yes.
watching that.
Yes.
Just to know. Like, moving forward philosophically, when we have those conversations again,
So,
Well, that's why we brought Zions in, but if you remember, his projection
was
was
this-
is that, well, interest rates are gonna come down, and they've actually gone up.
Yeah,
So, we're even better off than maybe what we thought we would have had we gone the other direction.
so,
So we're good.
so just so that we're aware of that, Kim, you might want to report on where we were at. And remember, I think last board meeting, we talked a little bit about Mountain America offering some CDs or some certificates,
we did.
a guarantee. Maybe it was just in committee meeting. And the reality is, maybe you can explain, Kim, where we're at with our guarantees, still better than if we had to switch that money on getting interest, right? It's not a lot, but it's enough to
So
make a
I-
difference.
I looked at the last state treasurer's statement, and I think it was 5.9% is what last month was for May. We had talked to Mountain America, and they had offered some stuff to us, but their CDs, when they were offering them, were 4% and up to 5%, but we're getting that on our state treasurer now. It's something you can watch and track.
Yeah, and I was kind of pushing to go to the Mountain America way, but then when they showed me the numbers, it's good we're where we are. I
We
guess.
Yeah, I
have
mean-
gotten up to 6% on the state
Yeah.
treasurer.
So it's done pretty good what money's in there.
Sure.
I mean,
and
the reality, we've made a little bit, but not, you know.
It's always a little bit of a gamble, right?
It
Because if we go buy a CD today and interest rates keep going up, it was a bad choice, right? But if we go buy a CD today and interest rates go down, it was a great choice. I don't think any of us have we don't know. There's no
Yeah.
crystal ball out there right now.
And we were looking at under $1 million, so it really wasn't gonna make a hill of beans one way or
Right.
the other, right?
Yeah.
And Robin, just so you know, that's the reason all the discussion has ended about the, paying off any future debt or anything that we had.
Yeah.
We're better off now at this point with the money setting where it's at, and
Smart
just to
debt.
pay them off regularly as they come, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about.
Yeah, and so, that's a good point, President. I think, Kim, you wanna let them know where we're at on those 2 bonds?
So I don't have the bond information, but I know that we've got, our interest rate is at least 3.5% less than what we're paying than what we're earning on that money if we were to pay it off early, so it's.
And their
it's-
payoff is coming up,
And we do have so one will get paid off in FY '26, and the last payment will be FY '27.
right? And at that point,
I feel comfortable.
And then
yeah,
we'll be
at that
out,
point, our plan is to continue to backfill that surplus with those same funds. Even though we'll reduce those bonds, whatever money's coming in for those bonds will continue to come in until we get our,
so we'll have to
capital where we
reduce
want
the
it to be.
debt rate if we don't have the debt anymore. We'll have to reduce that debt rate, but
yeah,
there's been talk about shifting.
trying to
Yeah,
shift that to where we can
shifting
gain
that
some,
to the capital.
to the
levy.
capital outlays.
Yeah.
side
So
of
we can
things.
build our funds back up after the preschool is
Right.
paid in full.
And if you look at our projections as far as what it's gonna cost to just maintain right now, our buildings are in great condition because of when they were renovated. But as we project out into the next 7-8 years down the road, that cost is gonna increase pretty dramatically. And so we've gotta have funds just to maintain. We're not talking about funds to build, but to maintain our current facilities. So
Yeah.
we've got all that projected out in our draft 20-year plan. We're gonna get that out there and published so the public understands what we're doing, so that we're transparent. That's where we're heading.
I think about 8 years, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When we really have some significant expenses coming up because of the age of our buildings.
Yeah, and that
Our yearly cost,
is going up,
Has it
obviously,
been
through
10,
the
12
budget.
years since we built all those buildings?
yeah, we hit the 20-year mark, and then we have a significant increase.
Yeah, and I think last budget meeting, we talked a little bit about the ability to fund a new school is much different than it used to be, that we could have that funding within less than 6 months, 3 to 6 months. And so that was always a concern prior to that, is how would you get that funding if you didn't put out a bond and those type of things. But again, our goal, as far as I understand us as a board, is to gain community trust.
That's right.
And if we can do that, we can do what we need to do, I think, so. And I think we're doing that. I think we're balancing things in a way that helps build that trust, from what I'm
We
hearing.
have
so.
trust, and we can show a need, and hopefully the public will respond.
Yeah, and we don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring us. You
That's
know?
right.
You keep hearing on the radio now, the railroad's coming, but the reality is when is it, and what impact will it have on Uintah County compared to Duchesne County, and what will we need to do at that time? So, but I appreciate where you're at with this, Kim. Thank you. It's an increase in budget of quite a bit, but it's based on really one item, the central code.
But
Or I don't know what we're gonna call that, the preschool, I guess.
Yeah.
One thing, and the superintendent mentioned a little bit about it earlier, but one thing, setting on some of the water boards in Vernal, and we've been meeting with Ashley Valley Water and Sewer and stuff. Getting a building lot right now is way easier than getting a water connection. And in fact, Ashley Valley Water and Sewer is not there's none for sale. You can't buy one from them, because they've used all of the water that they have allocated. So we're in the process of trying to get that fixed so that they can take, if I sell farm ground, I have to sell enough water with that farm ground. If somebody wants to develop it, they gotta get enough water with the farm ground that they can buy connections and trade. But right now, we're kind of at a deadlock in the Uintah Basin about, building. And so, we're short of homes, and you can't buy a water connection. So,
That's Uintah County or Ashley Water, not Vernal City, correct?
I haven't heard what Vernal City's decided for sure. Jensen Water and Ashley Valley Water and Sewer. And I don't know about Mazer. They have been in none of the discussions, but they've stopped until they get some agreement. Now, that could open in 2 weeks, it could open in 6 months, could open in 2 years, but they gotta figure out, they can't sell, it's not that they don't wanna sell a connection, they don't have the water to run through that connection after they sell it. They've used all of the water that they had on the west side, and now they've used up all the water that they bought when Red Fleet was built. So until they acquire some more water, figure out a way to get more water, they can't sell a connection because they don't have the water to put in the connection after you buy it.
Yep.
So a lot of things isn't based on what Uintah School District wants. We gotta wait to see what happens with that too, because there'd be a lot more home building going on right now in the Uintah Basin if they could get them, and we need them. People need places to live.
It's causing a housing crisis right now. It's almost impossible to find, to find homes. And the prices are really high. So, yeah. Okay.
Any other questions, board members? While you're thinking for a minute, I want the public to understand that watches this tape later. We went through a quick presentation here tonight for the public. That seems like for a $90-something million budget, we didn't spend a lot of time working on it. There has been hours and hours of meetings, hundreds of hours of planning by the financial department. The finance committee has spent hours and hours, and so has the board. We went over all of this a month ago, and so I want the public to understand that this board takes the budget very seriously, and we understand it pretty well, I think, for board members. We have an understanding what the district's doing, and we're in agreements in the direction that we want to go, and I feel like that when we get done and everything's published, every single thing that a board member knows, the public will have access to, and will know it's all black and white and out there for you. Would everybody do it exactly the way that this group has done it? Maybe not exactly, but we've done the very best in being as smart as we can be with our money, I feel like. With that being said, Todd is the president of the financial committee. Do you have anything that you want to add to this budget hearing, Todd?
No, with the exception of thank you for Kim and the staff. Grant, I know you stepped in at a challenging time, and we appreciate your efforts and the fire hose that you've been drinking from. We appreciate that opportunity as I've thought about the choices and decisions we make as a board, and the opportunity to have somebody that is a business administrator and a staff that has the accounting skills that we have. I think it puts us in a good spot. So appreciate you coming on board with us, and Kim and the staff for all that you've done. As we bumped some things off Kim last week, and Grant, that they had to make some changes to the budget right off the, after she just about had that draft in place. And so I know that's kind of a challenge, but it's good we have those staff or those committee meetings, because sometimes you're thinking outside the box on some things, and as you're thinking and talking about it, some things come up that we realize, oh, we didn't put this in the budget, or this isn't in the budget. And so I think we may have missed a few things. I'm sure that there's some things that are going to come up, and somebody's going to say, oh wow, why didn't we budget that, or how did we miss that? But there's just been so much work that's gone into this, so I appreciate it. two things that Kim mentioned, and Grant, I'm interested in this union student count. And also the ability to get union students back to Uintah County, if possible. But also the funds that you said are the grants that are eligible for, due to our county status change. You know, a report on that, Kim, of some sort, or somebody digging into that to find out really what's available?
We're gonna bring that to facilities committee.
So you think it's more on the facility side of type of grants?
Facility side.
Great. So I think those are things that are, you know, helping us move forward. You know, we talk the money that's in there for the buses and those type of things, and it's just stuff that, you know, what can we do to be present and all-knowing when it comes to these things. So I know it's a lot of effort on all of your parts. So again, thank you all.
Todd, we'll bring those to both the facilities and finance committees.
Great.
Yeah.
Denise, any questions or comments?
I just know how much time they put into it, so I just want to say thank you. It's impressive what they do, so just thank you.
It's 6 months worth of work.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Can't believe how long. Robin, same question to you?
Just, I know we've, heavy lift for everybody, and we expect, with our decisions, it has affected the business department, so thank you also for that heavy lift and 6 months of work, and government accounting, wow, you guys are wizards. It's amazing.
Tanya?
Just going to say thank you too, and I hope you guys sleep really well tonight. I know there's been a oh, okay, still a few more days.
When you make the final board memo.
I am just really, really grateful that we have such a great staff, that we have such great people that we can depend on, that give us good information so that we can make the best decisions possible. And I feel like we're trying really hard to do our best to be responsible with tax dollars and do our best to provide the best education possible. So, thank you.
Superintendent?
Yeah, just to echo what the board members have said, yeah, you know, this transition is, the timing, at first I was really, you know, man, this is tough, but the reality is Grant came in at a time where it's been a big learning curve, but he's gotten to see some things in action that will help him and prepare him as we move into the new fiscal year. And this 6 month cycle, well, it's gonna start over here in 4, 5, 6 months from now, right? Yeah, and we're gonna, and so Grant's gonna be positioned well to, you know, to be able to really dig in and help with that. But Rigo, Karen, Kim, Shauna, you know, the work that's been done has been phenomenal.
Really
You know,
everybody in the business department.
yes, yes.
Payroll, benefits, purchasing, like the 3 accountants, everybody's involved in different steps of the budget.
Yeah, we've got a great group of people, and I sure appreciate them. I appreciate Grant and his willingness to get in there and learn and grow. So thank you, and board members, thank you. Again, Todd, you're right. There's a lot of work behind the scenes, a lot of hours in finance committee hashing things out. I love the transparency in the process where board members can question just about anything, and we have a process in place that allows for those interactions to help us to be accountable and to refine and you know, to tighten our belts as much as we can to make this thing work. And you know, what's amazing for me to see is that this is a great time in Utah. There has been a lot of money infused into the system, don't get me wrong, but we're seeing an increase in student achievement in our district, and we haven't gone to our local taxpayers and asked for any additional funds. So think about that. That's pretty amazing, right? Big improvements. I mean, you look at our high school scores, and we're going to bring more of that to the board here soon. But we're seeing improvement like we've never seen in this district before, and again, we're doing it with the resources that we have, and so I really want to make sure that the public understands that we're doing, you know, we're getting better, but we're doing it with the existing resources. So thank you. That takes a lot of a lot of leadership from you know, our directors, our principals, our business department, and I feel really comfortable and I guess confident that we're going to continue to see those gains. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, having him, our superintendent, say that, he's been pulling double duty as well, and I didn't mention that, but we do appreciate you on helping us along on the financial. I think you've mentioned numerous times that, wow, you're glad you're where you're at. So, but again, thank you.
Well, honestly, the last week or so, I haven't had to do double duty. I've been able to step back from it, and I just, you know, the staff has done an amazing job. So,
Grant, anything that you'd like to add?
I don't really know that I can say much more than has already been said. Huge thank you to the staff and the department. I don't know I'd have made it these past 2.5 weeks without you guys. Thank you.
We ditto to everything that's been said. Thanks to everyone and all the hard work, and there's no sense of me repeating any of it, but we have a little bit of an understanding, and I think the process is working well. Number 5 on the agenda is the public, the opportunity for the public to give input. There has been no one sign up on the public input sheet, and so with that being said, we'll move on to number 6 I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the budget hearing.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the budget hearing.
I'll second it.
Denise Maynard seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Did we do something wrong, Kim?
oh, we did.
Hmm?